this time it'll work out better. Let's do another folder for this paint box. It's not really going okay, but you know, figure, just try again. Start from scratch, because sometimes you just gotta throw out what you make. Buckley Boo. I'm just looking at my cat. That's just, I call him Biggest. It's like the name of the channel. He's also the thumbnail. He's just adorable. He's adorculous. Anywho's else, what am I gonna name this? It's probably like Paint Box. Newer paint guy. There we go. See, if I was wanting to like actually do some smarter version history, I probably would have been like version 1 or 2 or whatever, but it's like, I mean, that's what PDM software is for and whatnot. Honestly, it'd probably make sense for me to like figure out the, because like I'm using SolidWorks, they have this 3D experience thing, which I think is their cloud-based save system. I don't quite know, and I got like a tinfoil hat kind of thing, but it would probably be helpful. Anyway, so the idea this time is instead of doing hexes, just do squares, because squares are easier to manage, and just kind of go at the paint that way. So, my thought is let's get... So first off, one of the things that I didn't show me making, but would be good to show, maybe it's under open recent. Ooh, it is. So we got this, so let me just, so we got, under here, these are the different files that I have. So I got the Citadel pot, and I got the Vallejo bottle. So these are like the different paint styles I got, and I just like, I hate it when it does that when I open multiples. It goes into like a series of windows inside this window, and that's how SolidWorks processes. It does make it easier to navigate, but I don't like that. You can use these buttons too, but I mean, it does give you some extra features. I just like not having things as confused. Anyway, where was I? Yes. So my plan this time is instead of making like a bunch of hexes and stuff, I'm just gonna make a bunch of squares, and it's gonna be 2 rows for the Vallejo paints, and then a row for Citadel and other Chonkulus paints, and then like a little thing that folds out to push it in and shit. Might work out. Regardless, having something to actually store these things in would be helpful, possibly useful. So where are we? Center. So like this is just the, what? No, just give me this one. These are like the different types of rectangles you can do it. Okay, let me actually explain what I'm doing before I do any of this crap. Discard changes and exit. Let's try this again. So I want to start off, I want to make this box, right? So when you open up a new model, start from the beginning, you got your 3, you got like your standard datum shit. I was kind of talking about that before, but there was like one guy who watched it for 20 seconds. So to the continued empty void that I shout out onto, let's see our default planes. So you have these 3 default planes that you have to work with, and on top of that you got sky. The button I'm using here, because I should probably explain that too. This is your hide and show button. So this lets you control which objects you see. Honestly, it'd be smart to go through this whole range of bullshit. This one, I think, is a zoom to fit. Yeah, so it just zooms your what you're working on, so that way it fits the full screen. It's not going to do anything here since there's literally nothing here. This is a zoom to a box. So you click this and you're like, bam, I want to see that stuff. And what I'm doing there is just using my scroll wheel. And I hit escape to back out of that. Oh, let me also, I got a little detached keypad. And I have a specific CAD configuration. This is entirely just for like Crapple Tunnel. I was having issues with that. Anyway, then you have this telescope thingy. Oh, that's convenient. It lets you move to a different view. So we can go back to the main view, and we can go back to that view, which is what you call your main default view, in isometric. there's no perspective distortion, which is why like the right plane lines up with the front plane over here, and they line up with the top plane like that, and they make this cool like lined up shape. It's neat, but that's just the way it is. Perspective distortion is where you have a point out somewhere far away, but a defined number, so that way all of your lines will eventually narrow down to that singular point. Removing perspective distortion means that you get rid of that point. You put it at infinity, as it's described. And then you got this thing, which is just a section view, and I'll show you that more when we get there. This lets you like, it's all right in SolidWorks. I don't really care for it. Oh wait, no, never mind. This one's better than I thought. Sorry, my apologies for insulting it. That was one that I had to drag and click. Now, it makes no sense right now. You'll see it when we get there. This one lets me control which orientations I go into, so if you hit this drop-down menu, you can either go through here to get like these different views on it, or you can use your box here, and then it turns on, you see how the planes don't line up anymore? It turns on perspective. So it gives you an idea of stuff. But I just want to click back there. And then this is how you see things. So shaded with edges, shaded. This will make more sense when I actually have a part to show you, so I'll do that. Oh, go away, SolidWorks. Sometimes you should read those. I knew what it was talking about. I was talking about background crap. But anyway, this is the button I was using earlier to show the planes. So you can hide and show your planes. And I'll make use of this as I go through the design. We don't really need the origin right now, but it's just, this hide and show planes is nice here, but you can turn it off so you don't see it, because you have access to your planes in this lovely little bit called the model tree. And this guy is how you're going to start off all your designs. Is it'll have the name of your part, this M symbol here, which means that it's saved on their cloud or whatever. It's all good, I don't care. You have your part history, which is just like a folder of all the stuff that you did. You got sensors over here, which kind of like the name implies, they're little measurement tools. So like, let's say you want to specifically probe the length of a part at any given point, you can always pull that up, or you more realistically want to know the mass or center of mass. That's what this bad boy does. Annotations, that's just any notes you put in there, or like any drawing annotations like typed up and stuff. Material, as it says, you can specify what material it is, so you have some stock ones. And that's honestly for the kind of stuff I'm doing. I don't need to specify the material. If I was going to outsource this or work in a professional environment where I was going to give this off to somebody else, then you'd want to source your material. And if you're also trying to get mass properties, what I'm working on here is making something that's 3D printed out of PLA. So you hate it. And then I got my planes here, just the standard extruded planes. So I want to start off with making the base of the box. So to do that, we're just going to do this whole extrude boss base. Then I'm going to click on the top plane. So then this opens up our sketcher menu. So this has several different options. You got your line option here, and they all have a bunch of different drop downs. So we'll go into the drop downs in a bit. But you got your line, which just like the name implies, lets you make a line or a series of lines, do that kind of stuff. I don't want that, so we're going to get rid of that. Then you got circle, which again, circle, don't need it. Spline is like a line, but with curves. And like these ones can be mathematically defined and crap. And if you notice there how they snap like that, what it's doing is it's making these lines all tangent to each other. So at each of these points are tangent points for the lines. And you can control how the tangencies are applied and in which directions they go using these things. But then it makes things sad. So like if you want to use the spline tool, feel free. I would recommend using an image editing software rather than the internal spline tool, but again, not a big deal. Planes, if you're making a 3D sketch, they'll be important, but not for right now. Rectangle, this is our tool. So right now it's in a curvy rectangle, which is this one, but I want to do a center rectangle. So this is my favorite style of rectangle, because what it is you define the center for it, which I'm going to pick our origin, because that's the center of the geometry, of like the provided geometry, so I'll make it the center of my model. Already pre-built in, and makes it easy to define. So now we drag this point out here, and that gives us our size. Now, some people, now let's say I were to click on this, you could be tempted to be like, oh, well I can just enter in the dimension for the line here, because I want this thing to be like 300 millimeters wide to accompany all my pots, then like a little extra change on the edges. So we're just gonna say for right now, just 330, because it doesn't really matter. It's whatever, and then like I can edit this afterwards. But if you notice, now that I did that, it's still blue. And if I want to, I can just go in here and drag it around. That's no bueno. So what you gotta do is you gotta click on this dimensioning tool. This is your smart dimension. It'll just automatically lock onto what it thinks is best. If you need to, you can go into like more specifically how you do it. There's horizontal dimension, which, like the name implies, it dimensions it horizontally, vertically is vertically, and that's in reference to where the sketch is default, like your default layout for your sketch. So like the way that it's currently set up. Then you have this thing called baseline dimension, which all it does is you choose, I can show you through these as we go through. This isn't the one to do it, so we'll wait on going on these ones. But let's just start off making it simple. Go to smart dimension. I want it to be 300. Now, if you notice, I can edit this thingy, but I can't do that. And that just means it's locked in. Oopsie. Ignore those. That's macros. I need to unbind on this thing. So anyway, make that 330. And then the next bit we gotta do is you go over here, and we want to add some width to this. Now, from measurements, the Vallejo bottles 25 millimeters in diameter, and the Citadel pots are 30 millimeters in diameter. Maybe 32. I'll check my cap real quick. But regardless, if I want it to be like 225s, that's 50. Plus another 30 is 80. So let's just throw 100 in there for extra dimensions I might need. Click this check button, and now I just want to make a simple rectangle because I prefer to remove material from my designs because I like to define the biggest chunk of what my thing is going to be and then know what size constraints I want to be in. So anyway, exit the sketch, and then it'll prompt us to be like, ooh, so you want to extrude it. So there are two ways, so there's a few ways you can do it. You can drag it here, which is, oh, come on, which is nice for like just getting a relative sense for how deep you want it to go. Now again, the Vallejo bottles, or the paint bottles I'm going to be using, sorry, I keep on saying like you would know what they are. The specific paint bottles I'm going to be using, I think, are like 80 millimeters tall. Again, I'll check the CAD I made a while back. So right now I'm just going to stick it at 90. And this one's okay to drag because that's still, if you see over here, it's a defined dimension. There's some other things you can do here. So when it's saying from sketch plane means that we're extruding it from our top plane. You can also do it from a surface, face, or plane. Go into that later. A vertex, which is again, just these are external reference dimensions. And then offset is just offset from wherever you're starting to sketch it from. So we're just gonna do from sketch plane. Blind, because that's what I want to do. Blind just means go to this dimension and stop. That's all it is. It's a reference to like some machining terminology, which I can get into at some point, but I'll get into it when I go over holes. But you can also make it smart and say like go up to this vertex, which I can show off. It's similar to up to surface, where again it's just going up to a specific stop point, so you can make your CAD a bit smarter if you'd like. You can also, similar to up to surface, is offset from surface. So again, just making it a little more intelligent, but saying that like, hey, I want it to be this far away, or like, hey, I want this much clearance. Up to body, similar feature where if like you make it with multiple bodies in this geometry, which I can go over what bodies are eventually, but not right now. And then there's mid-plane, which means that like your defining plane is the center plane for it. So it'll extrude from both the top and bottom 90, so 45 and 45 respectively, but it'll do that math for you. I just want to do blind. Because blind you can also add an extra direction if you wanted, so that way you can do the similar thing as mid-plane, but more stupid. And then you can also add drafts. I'm not going to do that right now. And there's some other bits down here, which I'll go get to when I get to. But anyway, we'll start off like that. Now, I need to make sure that I'm actually doing this right. So this is probably my tallest bottle, and it's also the same as one of my chunkier bottles. So if I go into here and I edit the sketch, I just want to know the dimensions on this. So this is a revolve. That just means that I choose an axis and it spins it around. So like for any circular features, that's going to be what you go off of. Oh, it's 31. That makes the math harder. Not too much harder. Like, I'll edit it as I go through. And then the total height of this thing is 86, so I probably need to make my thing a bit taller than 90 if I want to have any wall thickness or any other kind of stuff in it. This is the other bottle that I'm going to be putting in here, the other tall one. And this one is 25 in diameter and 78 tall. So I need to make my box 100 tall, and 300 wide is probably not enough, but we'll work with it for now. So go over here, you can just click on it as well and see the dimensions, and then you can edit it. And so that'll update the value on this guy. But until you hit this fancy start button, like the stoplight button, which is also known as rebuild, you could do Control B. I just like hitting buttons. Then it'll actually update the geometry if you do it that way, because you need to rebuild how the thing functions. I'm playing with the cat right now because cats are adorable. At some point, if I feel like setting up a webcam and actually streaming that, I can, because I get distracted with cats. It's the thing for the channel. What's it? The thumbnail. It's bugging me to save. It wants me to save this thing, even though it's just an extrude, because I've been talking a lot and filling up the dead air with the soothing sounds of my voice. That sounds pretentious. Anyway, so my whole goal with this is to have like a box that you kind of open up and you just have your paints there. Like, let's just start off with the simple one, because I want to eventually have it fan out and shit, but, and stuff. Swear it's probably not the best, but anyway. That's kind of how I want it to set up, so I'm going to be working on figuring out how I do that. For right now, I'm just going to go in here, edit this extrude, and now I want to make a cut in it. Oh wait, I should probably actually explain what an extruded cut is. This card changes the next step. So now that I have geometry here, you saw like a whole, so like when I just have just this, these all go away, because this section over here, this is all subtractive modeling, which means that you're cutting into your model, and this stuff is modifying your model. And I'll go into each of these as I get to them, but for right now, you need any kind of geometry to exist first before you can extrude it, put a hole in it, or before you can cut it, put a hole in it, do more cuts, or do even fancier cuts. There's just a lot of cuts. So I want to put a hole in it for where the paints will sit. So I'm going to be like, bam, like that. And since the bottles are 31 in wide, I want like about 2mm wall thickness. That means it's 33 per bottle, and I want 10 of them. So that means it's 330 for the main cut, which means I need to make this thing bigger. But then the other thing is, like, since it's 31 and then 225s, I want the walls for the 25mm bits to be like roughly 3mm. So that's like 28, and then 31 again, just 2. Actually, let's just make it 2 all the total. So it's 2 27s and 1 32. So one thing that you can do here is that it'll actually take equations. So let's say I want to make this 27, and I want 2 of them. So 2 27 pockets. And then I also want to add 33 for that 2mm wall. Hit enter. Bam! Does the math for you. Don't even have to think. It's great. And then you exit the sketch. Well, I mean, you have to think, but you don't have to do like the mental math for it. So now we want to cut through it. And I just want to go like 85. 85 something. Actually, wait, no, I do want to go 90 here. 90. Okay. But that means then I need to make this bigger. So let's go over here, and then let's just make this like what? 350 if you're being conservative. Actually, you know what would be really helpful to figure out right now? Since I plan on 3D printing this, I use a Prusa printer, so let's bring over the most important friend, which is, come on, a web browser and a search engine. So we go into this thing, and then we go over to, what was I looking up? I do this sometimes, I just forget. My brain just don't work too well sometimes. So, I was doing something. Oh, yes, I was looking up the print volume for my 3D printer. So I have a Prusa i3 Mark III S. And I just want to know the build volume of it, because this gives me my restrictions for how big I can make it. So its build volume is 250 by 210 by 210. So that means this width, real dumb. No way it's going to work unless I want to make it a multi-piece thing. I am lazy. I don't like doing that. So let's do this instead. So let's edit this sketch. So right now, I just want to make sure this thing's smaller. So what I can do here is I can right click on this dimension, change it to driven. So when a dimension is driven, it means that it's driven by some other piece of geometry. So the other piece of geometry driving it right now is nothing. So I want to make it so that way it's just a nice, even to all the walls for right now, because I find that aesthetically pleasing, and I'm making this so I can do what I want. So if I go over to our line tool, you have this option to make new lines. So you can either make a line or you can make a center line. And all this does is it just checks this box for construction. You have some other bits here, infinite length and midpoint. I can get into those later. Infinite length is what it suggests. Midpoint is something different that I probably need to remember what it does. So I want to draw a line out to there. Ah, rude. And I accidentally drew out another line, but that's okay. You know what? We have a handy button called delete. So there's two ways you could do this. You could dimension it out here and just be like, okay, so what's this dimension? This dimension is 6.5. So I could say I want this guy to be 6.5. But that's lame. That means I have more numbers to update. But who wants to update numbers? Instead, I just click these two center lines I drew up, say equal. It does the same thing, same difference as making it that 6.5 on both sides, but it just means I don't have to do a whole bunch of malarkey or updating features to get it there. I just say that's what I want it to be, and it'll do that. So that lets me do something kind of fun. So I can go into this thing, and since 350 is way too big, my build volume is 250, and I don't really want to, or it's 210, I don't want to hit the cusp of that, because hitting the cusp of the top bit of your build volume, problematic. Just because you allow for more errors to be added into it. So let's just stick with a solid like 180. And I'll figure out how the math works for the comparting all this stuff, right? Because this is only half the battle. This is just like the basic box. So now the other thing you could have done instead of doing this cut extrude. So let's say you didn't want to dimension all that stuff, and we just wanted to end up with an even shell anyway. Go in here, this funky button called a shell. Click on that, and then let's say we want the whole wall thickness to be 6.5. It does the same thing. Exact same thing. Honestly, it's probably better than doing it that way. Because it's less features. I'm all about reducing features. Now this thing is broken. Like, that's what it means when it has that. It's just saying, oh, I'm not really getting rid of any geometry. What's this cut doing here? Cut don't work well. So I'm just getting rid of it. Because I don't want to add it anymore. I was just hitting the delete button there. So anyway, if we shell this bad boy out, and then we go in here, and how do I want to do this? I want squares. Oh, no. Cancel. So one of the things that I did there that I didn't want to do is I clicked on this face down here. This face, part of the shell. I could click on this face as part of the box extrude, or I could click on the top plane. And the only reason that I point this out is because you want to try to limit the amount of references you have for your features just to make a more stable model, so it's less likely to explode when you go back to look at it. So, any hoozles, I want to do that off the top plane, Granted, I'm still gonna reference the shell anyway, because we're gonna go here and we're gonna do, I want a corner rectangle this time. And so I want it to be like about that. Make these two sides equal. And then smart dimension, let's make it 25.2 on the outside, just to like, that's just to add some clearance for everything, so that way it's not like constricting on us, that way you don't have to open up anything, because I've done that before and it's a pain in the butt. So now if we click the check mark, so that this is gonna be what our box is. So let me show you another fun way to do extrusions. So this thin feature button. Now what that does is it means, oh hey, this profile, you want that to be the wall of your feature, and I'm like, yeah. And so we want that wall, since this is a 25.2 thickness thing, let's make it 2.8, because that'll take up the slack from all the other bits. So then in total, 28, right? So we click the checkerinos mark, and edit feature. We can also say instead, let's just do offset from surface. So let's offset it from that surface, and let's say I want it to be only like 30 millimeters up. Are you gonna actually do what I want? Oh wait, no. Blind. Oh, sorry, from surface face plane. From that surface. There we go. That's what I wanted. So I wanted it to just be off of that surface rather than off the top plane. And I want it like that, just that way you have some room for fingers to like go in and grab stuff. I hit the space bar, and you have to hit enter, or that checkbox, either or. So anyway, this is, we're gonna rename this guy. So if you go onto here and you right click it, it gives you a whole bunch of different options. So we're gonna rename this bad boy. We're gonna be like, Vallejo Bottle Dealy. That's Dealy. That's probably how you spell Dealy. There's someone out there watching the stream, all like, 2 of you, 1 of you, maybe. I don't even know. All someone. Either way. Extrude that doodad, and then we're gonna go grab this bad boy, and we're just gonna do a solid, like, little linear pattern, because, oh wait, what's this fill pattern? I'm just gonna fill boundary. Ooh. Make it square. Ooh, this is cool. Oh. And then make this 28. Oh. Interesting. Okay. That was unexpected. Check. Well, live and learn, man. Learn new features every time, so that'll fill it up to however much I want, but that's not really what I want, so, but that gives me an idea. So instead of doing it like that, let's do a solid, so we're gonna, up to reference. I think this will do the same thing that spacing, we want 28. Oh, maybe I need to do this. That? So you're just seeing me mess around, like trying out different features, because sometimes that's the only way you learn, is just messing around and finding stuff. Well, that doesn't work. Oh, up to reference. So I specify the amount of things that I want in it, and I say go up to that reference, and it'll try its best. But it doesn't seem like it's appreciating me doing that, so let's try this again. Oh, up to reference, because it needs, oh, I see. So anyway, you need to define a direction for it. So I could click an edge, but I like using planes if I can help it. It doesn't like letting me use planes. Okay, well, fine. Be that way. Well, I guess we'll do the thing I really don't like doing, which is grabbing an edge, but it does the job. As much as I hate to admit it, grabbing an edge does the job if you don't mind it being written based off of other geometry. And so here, I'm just saying, hey, put it 28 over that way and 28 down this way, and then just click the checky box, and then bam, that's what it do. And so then the next piece we want is we want that I want the other bottle. So we're gonna do another extrude from the top plane. And this time it's just gonna be from here. There we go, up to here. Make these bad boys equal. Smart dimension again. Just make it 31.2. Make it just a bit chunkier. Checkerinos. Exit sketch. Do the whole thing again. Thin feature. And then this one I don't really need to do blind, because what I'm gonna do is up to surface, up to this surface, because that's just, I don't want it to line up like that. Yeah, and then 2.8 to make sure the walls are correct, and then just click the Checkerino box. And it looks like, ooh, got some issues. So this is honestly like, I just want to get it to be close enough. So here's all I'm doing. I'm just measuring these two, and okay, so let me actually go back real quick. So you have these different tabs, right? You always start off in features. If we go into evaluate, that's where you get your measurement tools. Interference detection is what it says, but we want measure right now. So I grab this bad boy and that bad boy. Those are the two surfaces I want to measure the distance between. Now you see, it gives a whole bunch of different ones. So dist 8.8 is from the shortest distance from like these two edges that define it. But really, what I want is this normal distance. Normal distance just means if you drew a line perpendicular to each surface, or as perpendicular as you could, what's that distance? And since these are two planes, they both have a perpendicular distance. The normal distance is 2.8, which means, or 0.2, I'm sorry, which means to get these things to line up properly, I just gotta go into here, grab this thing, and just be like, hey, take 0.2. Click the check, and if I rebuild it, look at that. Same surface. And then if we do that again, because I want this to be the same surface as that, distance is 1.8. So I go back into here and be like, hey, dude, sorry, those are old macros. You'd think I would just remove them at some point, but that requires effort, and I sometimes just kind of lazy. Anyway, get that to sync in properly. So now, this guy still doesn't do us much good if it can only hold one, so we gotta pattern it, baby. Let's go back to our linear pattern, and since we'll just grab the same reference point, but the distance spacing we'll use is 33, and for that we only want to go up to this reference, please. There we go, and that actually works right this time. Hey, so this can hold 5 of those Citadel guys and 10 of the Vallejo guys. Issue is, I got more paints than that. So, the answer to this problem is that we take this and we make it, let's do 200.4, which is multiplying it by 2. So I get twice as much storage for each of those. Exit the sketch. And so then, if we go into this linear pattern here, we want 4 more instances, so I just go to this number. I want 4 more instances down this way, so I just make it 4. Bam. Then I go to this pattern, and I'm like, I want 1 more instance of it, so direction 2, baby. Let's go 2. And this one is, and then I have to define a direction for it, so same reference. And then if we want to flip the direction, so I just hit that button. There we go. Now, that means this box is too wide. So there are ways to do this where you don't have to edit this stuff. I'm just lazy and I didn't really feel like thinking through it right now. 'Cause if you think through it, you can plan ahead for some of how you will model, but for right now I'm just kind of going by the seat of my pants. So I need to decrease this distance by 14. So, go away history. So we go over here, go away measurement tool, grab this guy, take this, not today's date, gosh dang it. And then rebuild, bam. Same wall, sweet. Alright, so now I have a spot for all of my paints. Functionally, it's done. Honestly, if I were really feeling it, I could also do this, because realistically, the height of this box only has to be like 40. Let's make it 50 for just comfy's sake. And honestly, this will serve me for now. I'd like to add a few more things to it, mostly just adding some fillets. These are pronounced fillet, not fillet, because I don't know why. Just that's what it is. Don't call it fillet if you can help it. Anyway, I want to fillet. So you have a bunch of different types. Mainly, this is just a round, so I just want to round stuff. So, let's see if I just click on. I think if I do this. If I click on a feature, I might. Okay, that might. Let's see how that gets me. So fillet parameters. Let's go with a 5mm fillet. Close. It didn't like that, so let's go with 2. Hey, oh yeah, because it does it on the top too. 2mm is fine, because then I can also say, hey, do this wall, do this wall, do this wall, do this wall. And it just helps out. Now, honestly, a better way to do that is because we have these things that are already handy-dandily patterned. So if I were to go back here, right, drag this thing up just a skosh, and I were to say, fillet. No, not that, you weenie chungus. This corner here, this corner here, this corner here, and this corner here. Let's say, click the checker box. Then we go to this linear pattern. If I were to then be like, hey, linear pattern, could you also include this fillet? And I'll be like, oh, yeah, sure, we'll do it. But it doesn't like that because the fillet has that tall boy edge. So we're gonna have to do other stuff to get it to do properly. Oh wait, no, the way that you do this properly. So it doesn't really like it there. So instead, let's go into the sketch and fillet it. Because you know what you can do? You just go here, sketch fillet. Woohoo. Oh, okay, fine. So let's first define it as 2, so that way it doesn't just instantly break the model. Oh wait, no, 5. I like 5. Yeah, shut up. That's just telling you that you're changing this geometry will mess with previous relationships, but the convenient thing is, it just updates it for you. And it already has those set as equals, so you're all good. So anyway, if I do that, exit sketch, bam, stuff's filleted. But you see we have that. That's no bueno. I mean, it looks kind of cool. I might leave it because it looks cool, if I'm going to be honest with you. I might actually increase it, because then that gives it a little extra space for doing stuff. Because really, this just has to be 25mm in diameter, so I can make that like 8. And that should still function. Yeah! Sweet, that looks kind of neat, so we're going to stick with it. It's not very functional, but it looks cool. And I mean, sometimes that's all that matters. Anyway, let's go here. Grab these guys. Yeah, wah, wah, wah. It's just crying. SolidWorks do that. It goes wah, wah, wah. And it just makes the noise of like, hey, you're breaking relationships and stuff. But it's like, you figured out SolidWorks. You're a smart CAD program. And then we just go down here. There you go. And I kind of like the look of these holes right there, so I'm gonna keep them. That's honestly a great spot. Oh, but then it does. What the? What? Okay, well, that's no bueno. So let's figure out what the distance is that we're messing up. So these two guys, evaluate, measure. I probably just measured from the wrong spot. It happens. That's why you do stuff in CAD. It's because it'll catch you. And it's super easy to be like, oh, that needs to be 2.8. Well, then let's just go over here. Add 2.8. Simple enough. Hit this handy dandy rebuild button. And then, look at that. All hunky-dory, nothing broken. So, I'm just kind of going to stick with it. Now, one unfortunate part is that it do look kind of nasty here, and I kind of want to center it, if I'm going to be honest with you. I'm just weird like that, so the way that you can do that, there's smarter ways to do that. I'm just doing it the brute force method. So it's 2 millimeters, so the brute force method is you go here, you're like, okay, so I see that you have this constrained function, this coincidence on a vertex. How about we just get rid of that, move this guy, say, hey, this wall and that wall, so you have constraints. Sorry, I should have started off by explaining what those things are. So you have multiple constraints. These all green things, these are different ways that things are related to each other. So this hieroglyphic here, that means it's coincident. That means that this corner here touches on this is exactly where that corner is. So I don't want that anymore. So I delete it. And since everything else is fixed aside from its position, I can do that without messing with the dimensions. So let's say I want that guy to be collinear, and I want this dimension, since I need it to be 2 millimeters off, I get 1. And then, if I do that, exit the sketch, look at that, stuff's centered and looking nice. Ish. I could also step in the sides too, but effort. Lazy man. Anyway, the last step to do here is we go into features. I still want to fillet these things though. So we go 5. Let's just do, you know what, let's just do the thing I did last time. Go here, grab the feature, it'll fill it on all those surfaces, and then I also want to grab these corners here. Honestly, no, I don't want to do that. I'll explain why in a sec. I'm cool with it going that way. Let's go a little bit more. Let's go like, let's go 8, just that way it matches the ones up there. There you go. 8, just that way those are fixed surfaces, and then down here it just covers it up a bit better. And let's also grab these corners. These corners, and then hit the good old checkbox. So that way we have nice little rounded edges. And then I want to do a chamfer. So you have, if you grab from this fillet, chamfer. So chamfer is, instead of making it nice and rounded, give it an angle. So I want a 2 millimeter chamfer, and since all these edges are nice and round, it has this thing called tangent propagation, which means if a line is tangent to another one, it just brings the feature around. So I click one edge, bam, all of them are done. And I want to do that on the top too, just to make things nice. So I do that, and it's bam, 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 and it's just like, hey. And so right now, we'll just file, save to this PC, and I'm just gonna call this, go into Warhammer stuff, paint box. We'll just call this for right now, just paint tray. Sweet. Save that. And I'll also just save a copy as a step in STL, and I'll upload those things to Thingiverse. Okay, SolidWorks is doing this thing. Just that way, if anyone actually caught this, they could actually rebuild it themselves. If I feel halfway bothered to, I'll probably put it in the description, but I'm also a skosh lazy, so I might not. God, this is taking forever, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah, let it try to think through whatever it's trying to do. And then I'll try to put this stuff on the internet so that way people could use it if they'd like. Oh, Common Space. That's a PDM server thing. Anyway, let's save as new, because I want to 3D print this out. Save to this PC for Pete's sake. There are different types of things. STL is the 3D printed part. That's just stereolithography. That just, if you move this message for a minute, you notice how it's a bunch of triangles? Like, see how this plane is broken up into 2 triangles? All the planes are broken up to triangles and things. It's just defining it by a series of points and lines to each point. It's simple. It's that way you can 3D print it. And then, just as a step, save as new, save to this PC. Step or STEP or STP or .stp. There we go. Oh no, it's .stp. This is easier to edit than an STL is because you can actually bring this into CAD and it'll recognize rounds and stuff. And it's just if you want to see that stuff, you can. It's like if you want to open it up in your own copy of SolidWorks or Fusion 360 or what have you. So we're just gonna do that. And I think I'm gonna start the stream here. I hope y'all, whoever watched it, have a good day. Hope you found it useful to some extent. And I'll probably be on next weekend. Same roughly time, same place. I don't really have a good schedule going or anything like that. It's kind of when I feel like it, so it does nothing for me for actually getting any kind of views or stuff like that. And I need to actually have a thumbnail to help out, but, you know, doing it as I go along. I'm just kind of doing this for fun mostly and just kind of trying to show off the way I model because it seems like it'd be useful for people. Any hoozles, talk to y'all.